I'm Robert Thrash, pastor of the Arm Church here in Inglewood, California. And as part of this year's By Design conference, we're focusing on manifesting the gifts. Now, although we usually think of gifts such as healing, the gift of miracles, or prophecy, this year we're focusing in, I won't call it practical gifts, but those that affect us in our everyday lives. Specifically, today and during this time, we're talking about estate planning. And it is my privilege and pleasure to introduce to some of you Kizuwanda Walton.
Hello.
How about telling us a little bit about yourself, your experiences, and what brought you to estate planning?
Sure. I've been an attorney for about 15 years now. I took some classes in law school about estate planning, and as I practiced in my career, I decided to kind of venture out and explore estate planning more, particularly estate planning and real estate. And I have really thoroughly enjoyed practicing in those two areas. I feel like it's really important, especially for people of color, to learn more about how to build and protect wealth for the next generation. And a lot of that is accomplished through estate planning, through real estate. And so it's just something that I enjoy, I want to share, and I want to help other people accomplish.
That's fantastic, because when you said build wealth for generations that will continue, it's unfortunately been part of the plight of the Black American community to kind of just leave things to others and they'll figure it out. Or if when I pass away, they can bury me and whatever property I have. And that's not good, because quite often things are mixed up, messed up. And so I would like to ask, what is estate planning?
Absolutely. So estate planning is essentially simply making a plan to protect and provide for your family in the event that something happens to you. In the event that you become ill, incapacitated, you can't manage your affairs any longer, just making sure you have something written and in place to protect and provide. That's pretty much what it is in a simple form.
Well, thanks for that. And part of what I heard is, in case you're ill or become at a place where you can't make your own decisions, your family has your written plan as to what you would like done and what you would like followed, instead of having to guess.
Exactly. You definitely want to avoid leaving that burden and responsibility to your family, to others who are probably already experiencing a difficult time, especially if you've passed away, to make them have to guess and make those decisions on your behalf.
That's fantastic. As a pastor, I've had to walk beside so many families who have gone through the loss of a loved one. And it doesn't matter what relationship that was, even a child, a grown adult, let's say an adult child, but particularly husband or wife. And when they have not known what the wishes were of their loved one, it has been difficult. Quite often, in some cases, doctors have to make decisions that perhaps would not have been in alignment with the deceased or the severely ill, and it really is important to have an estate. So what major reasons should a person have an estate plan in place?
So some of the common reasons that people typically have an estate plan are to avoid probate, and I'll get more into that a little bit later, to kind of reduce their taxable estate or reduce the amount of taxes that they will ultimately owe, but specifically to provide for your family. I will say provide for minor children if you have kids, specifically if you have maybe special needs or disabled beneficiaries, to make sure that they're taken care of. And there's, to determine who's going to receive your assets, your real property, bank accounts, businesses. There's a million reasons why, but those are some of the major reasons why people choose to do estate planning.
Okay, suppose someone had the mindset of, Wanda, I'm not wealthy. Do I need an estate plan? And please tell us who should have one.
Sure. I believe everyone should have an estate plan, even if it's something simple in place. And I get that question a lot. People always tell me, well, I'm not rich. I don't really need an estate plan, do I? And yes, because an estate planning is about more than just the value of your estate. It's more than just how wealthy you are. An estate plan can provide for you during your lifetime as well as after death. So you want to have something in place. You want to name some people that you trust as your agents to make financial decisions for you, like he's mentioned, some medical decisions for you if you're not in the position to do those things yourself. So I think everyone should have some level of estate planning. How simple or how complex that may be will depend on your personal situation.
All right. I was going to ask, what does an estate plan consist of? And I think I've just heard you even mention some of those. Are there other reasons one might want to have, or what an estate plan consists of?
Sure. So an estate plan can typically consist of a will, a trust, power of attorney documents, advance directives. I also include insurance in this, life insurance, disability insurance. And there are some other documents that might be included, but those are pretty much the staple. These are the documents that you're going to name your agents. You're going to say what happens to your property, who your beneficiary should be, and then you've named the people that you feel comfortable and trust managing those things for you.
Okay, thanks. And I hope you all will be part of this. One of the things that some people do is they just leave everything to everyone, and people kind of get upset that, this person should have had or this person should not have had. Part of what I'm understanding, Wanda, is saying this allows you to be clear in what you want, who, and to have what and how much, if any, all right? You mentioned a couple of things just a minute ago. You mentioned an estate consists of a will and a trust. So what is a will and what is a trust?
Yes. So both documents are used in estate planning to kind of distribute your property after you pass away. But there's some major differences in a will and a trust. A will is typically a document that becomes effective after you pass away. It's literally just for distributing. It does name an agent, which is an executor or a personal representative of the will, to manage your affairs after you've passed away. And it is also something that will require probate typically. And probate is, kind of a court process that you have to go through. Wills are are more inexpensive to create up front. They're typically simpler than a trust. But major differences, will has to go through probate and it becomes a public document. With a trust can provide for you during your lifetime. This is something that can be a lot more comprehensive than a will. It typically will designate an individual, a successor trustee, to manage your affairs. If you become ill or incapacitated, you're dealing with some memory loss, Alzheimer's, dementia, or you're just physically unable to manage your affairs. The trust can help with that. And it will designate that your property, all of your assets, should be used to help take care of you during your lifetime before it gets to distributions after death. A trust is also a private document, which means, immediately, as soon as something happens, whether it's an illness, injury, or death, your successor trustee can take over and manage your estate for you without having to go to court.
Got it. Well, that's important because I know so many people want to avoid probate, but I'm not too sure why they want to avoid probate. Why would people want to avoid probate? What is so bad about it if it is bad?
So probate is something that typically people want to avoid because it is very cost and time consuming. Probate fees are typically a percentage of an estate. So if you just have one house that's maybe like $500,000, the probate fees are going to be a percentage of that house. If your beneficiaries don't have the cash assets to pay those fees, they may have to sell that asset to get that done. Probate also can take a really long time. And if you have some affairs that need to be handled rather quickly or things that you need to do, you're stuck at the mercy of the probate court. And selling that property, refinancing that property, and that can really, really hurt an estate to the point I've seen properties have to be sold. There's a state, the property taxes are due and none of the beneficiaries have the money. They've got us now, they're rushing against the clock to beat the tax sale. And so you just want to have more control over your estate, which you can do outside of probate.
And more control outside of that would be handled basically or more better through a trust?
It really depends on, a case-by-case situation. But with a trust, you have named a successor trustee or successor trustees, more than one person, to manage those affairs for you. So you don't have to wait for a judge to do it.
That sounds great. I recall years ago in my family, maybe about 50 years ago, we went through something very, very costly with an estate, if that's the appropriate term, that there wasn't that much money in it to begin with. And by the time some of the grandchildren, of which at that time were about 30, started contesting things, I don't know if there was much left at all. My mom was the executor, would you say? The executor, and she was really frustrated because I think at the end, everybody probably got around $1,100, $1,200. It was ridiculous.
And that's true. So when we talk about, I'm not wealthy, do I need an estate plan? I will say the smaller your estate, it might be even more important to have an estate plan in place because you're right, you don't want to lose the little bit you've worked your life to gather to the court due to fees and attorney's fees and probate costs when you could really just give that money directly to your family.
And on that note, you've talked about fees and costs and attorney costs and probate. Is estate planning costly or is it expensive? What's your thoughts?
It can be. So it really just depends on the nature of the plan that you want to create for yourself and your family. So there are a lot of free estate planning resources out there. You can get a power of attorney or you can, for really cheap or free online. You can handwrite your will in California. That's called a holographic will. You don't have to pay someone to do that. I'm not necessarily recommending that people choose those free routes. I'll also add, you can get an advance directive from your primary care doctor. They typically have them. You complete them and keep them on file with your doctor. So if those documents are needed, they already have them. I'm not necessarily suggesting you go free routes. There's just resources out there that are available online through, like I said, maybe your bank can provide a power of attorney or your doctor an advance directive. But some estates are going to need professional assistance, an attorney, an accountant, and so it depends. Yes, it can be expensive, but it doesn't necessarily have to be.
We've heard a lot, and thank you so much, Wanda, for informing us, letting us know what we need to do. I thought I had a pretty good grasp on estate planning, being the old guy that I am, but I could see that it has nothing to do with age. It has everything to do with being informed. I've read a lot, seen a lot, heard a lot, but from a seasoned professional such as yourself, I'm grateful that you were able to be with us in our Armed Conference by Design. So you all stay with us. We have a lot more coming. And again, thank you, Wanda.
And thank you so much for having me here today. It's been my pleasure.